Dr. Van had been studying War Hounds for 15 years. She had her notation stylus in hand, her observation log open, and a fresh entry half-written when War Hound Unit 7 crossed the field perimeter at 0612 hours, carrying something large and recently deceased in its jaw. She noted the time, noted the prey species, a Carith grazer, adult, approximately 40 kilograms, noted the return trajectory and the efficiency of the carrying posture. Standard post-hunt behavior. She had documented it 1,100 times. Then Unit 7 walked past the feeding area. Ven's stylus paused, past the communal cache point, past the 3 other War Hounds who had looked up with the specific attention of pack members tracking the location of a significant kill, past all of it, and stopped in front of Corporal Finn Sorrel, who was sitting on an equipment crate at the edge of the observation post, drinking something hot from a sealed field cup, reading something on his personal terminal with the unhurried ease of someone with 40 minutes before his next duty rotation. Unit 7 set the carcass down, directly at his feet, then sat. Finn looked up from his terminal, looked down at the carcass, looked at Unit 7, looked back at the carcass. "Oh," he said, "buddy." His voice was warm, not alarmed, not performing calm, actually genuinely unbothered. The tone of someone who had been surprised by something and found it more touching than startling. He set down his cup, reached out, put his hand on Unit 7's enormous head between the 2 forward-facing sensory crests that Ven's 15 years of documentation had established as the War Hound's primary social contact point. Unit 7 leaned into it. Ven's stylus had not moved for 47 seconds. She looked at her notation log, at the half-written entry that was now catastrophically insufficient, at 15 years of behavioral documentation that had never, not once, produced a record of what she had just witnessed. She pressed her calm. "I need someone to tell me," she said carefully, "how long Corporal Sorrel has been assigned to this unit." 3 months. Ven read the assignment file twice to make sure she hadn't misread it. Corporal Finn Sorrel, age 22, standard infantry rotation. Assigned to War Hound Unit 7's patrol support detail 3 months and 11 days ago. No specialist training in War Hound behavior. No xenobiology background. No fauna management certification of any kind. His previous posting had been perimeter support on a supply station. His performance evaluations described him as enthusiastic, reliable, and occasionally difficult to locate during off-rotation hours. 3 months. Ven had spent 15 years. 15 years of careful, methodical, professionally rigorous study. She had published 9 papers on War Hound social structure. She had been the lead consultant on the Conclave's War Hound handling protocols. She had trained 47 specialists in behavioral management techniques specifically designed to build functional working relationships with the units without triggering pack social dynamics that the handlers weren't equipped to navigate. In 15 years, no specialist, handler, or military personnel had ever received a kill offering. In 3 months, Corporal Sorrel had. She found him at the observation post. He had moved the carcass. Respectfully, she noted, not dismissively, to the side of the equipment crate. Unit 7 was still beside him. Not at the standard handler distance. The contact distance. Close enough that when Finn shifted his weight, the War Hound adjusted automatically, tracking the movement the way pack members tracked each other. "Corporal Sorrel," she said. "Doctor." He looked up pleasantly. He had been here long enough to recognize her field gear. "Unit 7 just brought you a kill." "Yeah," he said. "Duke does that sometimes." Ven looked at him. "Duke," she said. "I know the designation is Unit 7, Finn said, slightly apologetically. "He just looks like a Duke." 15 years of documentation. Not one of her subjects had ever been named Duke. "How often," she said carefully. "Does he do that sometimes?" Asterisk. Finn scratched the back of his neck. "This is the 4th time," he said. "The 4th time." Ven opened her notation log to a fresh page, then closed it, then opened it again. The problem was not having somewhere to write. The problem was not knowing which of the 14 questions arriving simultaneously deserved to be written first. She chose the most immediate one. "The other 3 times," she said, "were they documented?" "Documented." Finn looked genuinely uncertain. I mean, I didn't file anything. Should I have filed something? Corporal, Finn said, with the careful composure of someone who had spent 15 years being precise about things that mattered. A war hound presenting a kill to a non-pack member is a behavioral event that has never been recorded in the Conclave's entire history of war hound documentation. Finn looked at Duke. Duke looked at Finn. Finn said. The first time it happened, Finn said, "What did you do?" He scratched the back of his neck again. She was already cataloging this as a self-comfort gesture he performed when processing something unexpected. I said thank you, he said, asterisk, and then asterisk, he paused. I gave him some of my ration pack, the protein component. I figured he brought me food, so I should, return the gesture. Ven's stylus stopped completely. You gave him food, she said, in response to his kill offering. It felt rude not to, Finn said. In War Hound pack social structure, Ven had published a paper specifically on this. Reciprocal food exchange was the formal mechanism of pack bond confirmation. When a pack member brought a kill and the recipient returned food, it was not a casual social gesture. It was a declaration. I acknowledge you. I feed you as you feed me. We are the same pack. Corporal, she said slowly, did you do this all 3 times? Well, yeah, he said. It would have been weird not to. Duke shifted beside him, pressing his enormous flank against Finn's leg with the easy familiarity of something that had long ago decided where it belonged. How long, Ven said, before the first kill offering. How long had you been with the unit? Finn thought about it. 3 days, he said. 3 days. Ven set her notation stylus down on the equipment crate beside her. Not dramatically, just set it down, because holding it had become temporarily pointless given that her hands needed a moment to be still while her understanding rearranged itself. 3 days. The kill offering had come on day 3. In 15 years of documentation, the longest recorded time for a war hound to initiate any positive social behavior toward a non-pack handler was 8 months. 8 months of carefully calibrated specialist interaction, following protocols she had personally developed with a handler who had trained for 6 weeks specifically for the posting. 3 days. Walk me through the first day, she said. Finn looked at Duke. Duke looked at Finn. The comfortable, unremarkable eye contact of 2 beings who had long resolved any questions about each other. I arrived at 1400, Finn said. The previous handler briefed me on the unit. Patrol routes, feeding schedule, command signals. He paused. Duke didn't like me at the beginning. Define didn't like you. He did the thing, Finn said, gesturing vaguely at Duke's general enormousness, where he gets very big and very loud. A full threat display. Yeah, I didn't know what it was called. I just figured he was telling me he wasn't sure about me yet. What did you do? Ven asked. The answer mattered enormously, and she kept her voice carefully neutral, so he wouldn't edit it. Nothing, Finn said. I just waited. Figured if I left he'd think I was scared, and if I pushed back he'd think I was a problem. So I just stood there until he was done. Ven picked her stylus back up. In the Conclave's War Hound handling protocol, the protocol she had written, the recommended response to a full threat display was immediate submission signaling. Lower your profile. Break eye contact. Create distance. Every specialist was trained to do this. It was, she now understood, completely wrong. He stopped after about 2 minutes, Finn continued. Then he just sniffed me for a while. I let him. You maintained eye contact during the display? Not aggressive eye contact, Finn said, just normal. Like I was just waiting for him to finish. And after the sniffing? Finn almost smiled. He stole my lunch, he said. He stole your lunch, Ven repeated. Clean off the crate, Finn confirmed. I'd set it down to check the patrol equipment. Turned around, and he'd taken the whole thing. What did you do? I told him that wasn't cool, Finn said. And then I took the half he hadn't eaten yet back. Ven stared at him. You took food, she said, directly from a war hound. He'd only eaten half, Finn said reasonably, and it was my lunch. In war hound pack hierarchy, Ven knew food retrieval from a dominant animal was a precise social signal. Subordinates didn't attempt it. Equals negotiated it, and the only animals that simply, calmly, without aggression or hesitation took food back from a warhound mid-meal were animals the warhound had already decided ranked above itself. Finn had taken his lunch back on day 1, and Duke had let him. He didn't respond aggressively, she asked. He gave me a look, Finn said, like he was reconsidering his opinion of me. He almost smiled at the memory. Then he lay down next to my crate and went to sleep. Proximity rest. Voluntary. Unprompted. Day 1. Ven wrote 3 lines in her notation log, crossed them out, and started again. Corporal, she said, I need to observe your standard interaction with the full unit. Not just Unit 7. All 6. Sure, he said. Evening patrol is in 40 minutes if you want to come. She came. What she watched for the next 2 hours rearranged 15 years of professional certainty so completely that she stopped writing notes halfway through and simply observed. Because Duke hadn't just accepted Finn. Duke had introduced him. She could see it in the behavioral signatures, the specific way Duke positioned himself relative to Finn among the other 5 warhounds, the way he moved when other units approached, the particular vocalizations he used when the pack's attention needed directing. Duke wasn't walking beside Finn. Duke was presenting him. Corporal, she said, quietly during a moment when the pack had settled around a perimeter checkpoint. Do you understand what position you currently hold in this unit's social structure? Finn looked at the 6 warhounds arranged around him with the easy comfort of beings exactly where they chose to be. I figured I was sort of one of them, he said. Is that not right? Not quite, Ven said carefully. She looked at Duke, at the way he was positioned, not beside Finn, not behind him. Slightly in front, slightly to the left, the specific position in every pack social configuration she had ever documented of a senior member presenting a pack leader to the group. Corporal Sorrel, she said, Duke isn't treating you as one of them. She looked back at Finn. He's treating you as above him. Above him. Finn looked at Duke. Duke looked at Finn with the calm, settled attention of something that had made a decision a long time ago and saw no reason to revisit it. I don't think Duke got the memo that I'm a corporal, Finn said. War Hounds don't recognize military rank, Ven said. They recognize pack rank, which they determine themselves through behavioral assessment over time. She looked at the unit arranged around him. Apparently 3 days was sufficient. Is that bad? It's unprecedented, she said. Which is different? She was writing again, quickly, the notation log filling faster than it had in 15 years. In practical terms, it means this unit will prioritize your signals over any other input in a conflict situation. If you and the official command structure give contradictory signals, they follow yours. Finn absorbed this. That seems like something someone should have told me, he said. It's something that has never needed to be told to anyone before, Ven said. The evening patrol completed its outer perimeter loop and began the return leg. The 6 warhounds moved with the particular fluid efficiency of a pack that knew its route. Duke at the front, the others in formation, Finn walking with them in the position that Ven had spent the last 2 hours recognizing as not handler position and not guest position, but something that had no existing category in her documentation. She was building the category in real time. They were 40 meters from the base entrance when she heard the transport. A military command vehicle. Senior markings. It landed at the base pad with the purposeful efficiency of an unscheduled visit that was not going to be brief. Commander Veth, Oren stepped out. 15 years in War Hound military command. The officer responsible for operational oversight of 6 active units, including this one. He had received her preliminary report 40 minutes ago. He walked toward them with the expression of someone who had read something impossible and had come to see it disproven. The War Hound units saw him approach. All 6 of them stopped moving, and then in unison, without any signal from Finn that Ven could detect, they shifted position. Not toward the commander, not away from him, around Finn, tightly, deliberately. The specific formation Ven recognized from her oldest field documentation. The formation War Hounds used in the wild when their pack leader was present and an unknown dominant was approaching. The protection formation. Commander Oren stopped walking. Dr. Venn, he said, without taking his eyes off the 6 war hounds arranged around a 22-year-old corporal. Your report said behavioral anomaly. Yes, she said. This, he said slowly, is not what I pictured. Duke made a sound. Low. Resonant. Not aggression. Assessment. Finn put his hand on Duke's shoulder without looking down. A single quiet contact. The signal, Venn realized, had always been the signal since day 3 that said, I see it. I'm handling it. Stand down. All 6 war hounds relaxed. The commander looked at Finn. Finn looked at the commander with the expression of someone who was going to need the next conversation explained to him fairly carefully. Sir, he said politely. Commander Oren was not a man who stood speechless. 31 years of military service across 4 active conflicts and 2 diplomatic crises had given him a response for most situations. He had protocols for equipment failures, personnel incidents, interspecies misunderstandings, and one memorable occasion involving a Vethary ambassador and a malfunctioning atmosphere regulator that had required 14 hours of improvised negotiation. He did not have a protocol for this. He stood at the edge of the base entrance for a long moment, looking at 6 war hounds arranged around a corporal who was looking back at him with the politely uncertain expression of someone waiting to find out whether he was in trouble. Dr. Venn, he said finally, assessment. Venn closed her notation log. She had been building to this answer for 2 hours and 15 years simultaneously. The unit has accepted Corporal Sorrel as pack leader, she said. Not handler. Not attached personnel. Pack leader. The bond is permanent by War Hound social standards and cannot be reversed through reassignment. She paused. In terms of combat effectiveness, a War Hound unit operating under genuine pack leadership rather than managed handler command will respond faster, hold formation longer, and make significantly better field decisions. The pack functions as it evolved to function. Because of him, the commander said. Because of what he did instinctively, she said, which is different. Oren looked at Finn. Corporal, what's your background with animals? My family had dogs, sir, Finn said. Always. My whole life. The commander absorbed this. Dogs, he said. Yes, sir. 31 years. 15 years. 3 months. All of it arriving at the same place from different directions. Oren looked at the 6 war hounds settled around a 22-year-old corporal like the question of where they belonged had been answered on day 3 and hadn't needed revisiting since. Effective immediately, he said, Corporal Sorrel is reassigned from patrol support to primary unit attachment. He looked at Venn. Get me a new operational protocol, one that accounts for this. I've already started, she said. Oren nodded once and walked back to his transport with the purposeful efficiency of a man who had come to disprove something impossible and was leaving to build a framework around it instead. Finn looked at Venn. So I'm staying with them? He asked. You were always staying with them, she said. The paperwork is just catching up. Duke pressed against his leg. The solid, warm, uncomplicated weight of something large that had made its decision 78 days ago and had been waiting for everyone else to notice. Venn filed her formal report that evening. 15 pages, the most significant document of her career. In the recommendation section, she wrote what 3 months had taught her that 15 years hadn't. War Hound units have been managed under the assumption that handlers must be trained to work with the animals. This approach produces functional working relationships at significant resource cost with limited depth of bond. What Corporal Sorrel produced in 3 days, through no training, no protocol, and no awareness of War Hound behavioral science, suggests the assumption is backwards. We do not need to train humans to manage War Hounds. We need to give War Hounds humans who know how to be chosen. Humans who grew up with animals that picked them. Humans who know, without being told, that when something large and dangerous brings you what it values most, you say thank you, and you give something back. She saved the report. Outside, Duke brought Finn a second kill. Finn said thank you, shared half his dinner. The pack settled in for the night around a corporal from a supply station posting who had never once read a single paper on War Hound behavioral science and had done everything right anyway. Because some knowledge Venn wrote in her personal log doesn't live in papers. It lives in 15,000 years of dogs.